who have actually shown up on this cold day, so really appreciate it. But also, I know that there are people online, and hopefully our audio system is, the improvements are sustained, and you can hear better than in prior months. So before we proceed with our agenda, I think I'm hoping we all have thoughts and prayers for the families involved in the Rockville school shooting today. It's obviously a very difficult situation that should never, ever happen. So I hope you'll join me in thinking about them. One question, is the new proprietor of the Friendship Village Gourmet here? Okay. He would like to speak to us at some point, and unfortunately, he didn't communicate that last time, so he was here till the end, so we need to arrange a time. So the first thing on our agenda is the update on Page Park and the Red House from our project manager, Jim Wilson, who you've heard from before. Jim, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Red means I'm on. All right, everybody. Hope the rest of you have done better than Martha has with the fighting with the snow there. It looks like you lost a little bit of battle. Sorry about that.
He's talking about the fact that I fell on the ice and I have a bruised face, so.
So the contractor is going to be updating his schedule, but he was actually fortunate enough that he beat a lot of the really cold with the outside foundation work, which was, I don't know if he knew that or just got lucky, but he got it all done. So he does have all the inspection reports coming in next week. So they've got everything, the geotechnical report for foundation and as well as concrete cylinder breaks. They actually have to take the concrete, put it in a cylinder and break it, making sure it's a correct strength, and so we'll have that next week. He has not updated the schedule, and that sounds like it's not moving much, so he's still close to first week of April of being done. So we'll see what happens there, but that was good news. We did have a couple of unforeseen conditions. We had some rotted wood that we found, which is going to happen. There's actually been a handful of them, but most of them we've been able to figure out with solutions that didn't cost anything. So the rotted wood, you can't undo that one. And then there was there's another small valve that was, I don't know if it was frozen and leaking some, but he's got to fix those. So very minor, and he's doing great moving forward.
Just for everyone's benefit, at our last Parks and Grounds Committee, we approved the village managers going forward with the payment to replace the rotten wood, as you mentioned.
Yep.
So it's not coming before the council, but it has been approved. So.
Right, and he was fair and very incidental. This next week, we should be getting county inspections, close-in inspections for the plumbing and electrical that's in the walls. So all the rough-in's been done, and he's going to get his inspections for that work. Yes, sir.
What were the inspectors down for this previous week?
The inspections would have been obviously prior to all the snow and everything. They would have they inspected the footings and the foundations for the new deck that is going out.
So they did or they did not?
They did.
They
that
did.
was all done. That was done, and then the week and a half or so before that, they did all the inspections for the widening of the concrete going down into the lower level.
And approved it?
Yes, there were no issues, and so they're going to be getting the concrete test results back next week, and we're not expecting, it'd be very unusual to have any issues there.
Thank you.
That is all we have right now on Red House. Do you want questions or?
Any questions on the Red House? Thank you.
Great. On Page Park, the civil engineer did submit the designs for the sediment erosion control last week on schedule. He was not able to do it until he had received the concept stormwater management plan. So once that was approved, then he could submit his designs for the stormwater management. So that was submitted. We have also received his first draft, or kind of the beginnings of the design documents for all of the work that was out there, because the sequence is very rigid in the county. You have to take one step, do the next one, do the next one. So we received those, and from those, we've developed a draft of the proposal for the RFP for the contractors, and Julian and I have a few details to kind of go through to finish up, but it's pretty much ready to go out for bid, and we would expect a 3-week bid period is what we're thinking, and if it changes, we'll let you know. So and we're expecting to have final permits from the county around the 1st of May, kind of early May is when we're expecting to get permits. If it happens sooner, that would be great, but it's not usually one of those things that the county is able to do. They're pretty busy. So that is the next thing that will happen is when we get our bids back, is there'll be the selection for the contractors. Will be whatever that process. I don't know how that process exactly works here, but that'll be done before it'll be in April that we will be doing that.
Julian, is the council involved in that selection of the contractors?
Yes.
Okay.
So we will issue the RFP with our standard process, and then there's going to be a pre-bid meeting that we have to coordinate when that will be, because that needs to be announced with the RFP, and then the proposals Jim will review them with me, and those have to come back to the council, certainly because of the cost involved. Could I ask a quick question about the
Sure.
pergola removal, or is that, obviously they can't do that with the frozen tundra outside.
Yeah,
But-
two things. It will not be an issue of the scheduling associated with the work that's going to take place for the park. And he'll do it as soon as he's not having to do it through the icecrete.
And if I recall, you mentioned at our Parks and Grounds Committee meeting that at this point, the very rough estimate for opening the park is now into the summer. Had communications with the civil engineer. He probably thought it'd take him about 90 days to do the whole thing, and we'll see what happens when the bids come back, but sure feels like a long time, but at any rate, so it'd be 90 days after May, the 1st of May. So
whatever
May,
that 3
June,
months,
July,
May, June,
right?
July, right, yeah.
End of
the
July, okay.
Madam Chair?
May, June.
Sure.
Yeah, Jim, again, I repeat, I'm sure you know, but repeat for the record, when you get a certain date or week for the removal of the pergola, the abutting apartments need to be notified, so they're not all calling here and saying, someone's stealing your pergola.
We will do that. We'll make sure, however that happens, Julian, we'll just make sure we're communicating. Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? Vic, do you have anything?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your continuing work on this.
Absolutely, thank you.
The next on our agenda is the chair's comments. And how could I say any words if I didn't mention snow and ice? And I can give personal testament to the fact that there is gravity and that ice is slippery. So I advise everyone to be as safe as they possibly can. It's been a unique type of snow here. I think we've done a pretty good job. It's the crosswalks that have been the most difficult. The ramps into the crosswalks and then the pushing the snow, blocking pedestrians, which if you're in a car all the time, you probably wouldn't notice. But that's been a challenge. And later, Our village manager will tell folks how to notify Montgomery County if there's snow or ice that needs to be removed on their property, and if it's in the village, please contact the village center here.
Madam Chair.
Can I finish my comments?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We had a Winterfest on the 31st of January, and amazingly, 175 people came out in the cold and enjoyed food and entertainment. Finally, the council members received a briefing on what our managers learned from attending the ICMA conference, and I'll probably butcher this, International City, what is it?
International City County Management Association.
There we go.
Yep.
Okay. And there are two topics that we as council members are going to be learning more about, and I think are very important to our community. That's maintaining civility in public meetings and enhancing civic engagement. Our managers are going to be giving us ideas and possible projects when they dig deeper into those ideas. Councilmember Mueller, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say, I've lived here for 50 years, and we've had more snow 2 or 3 times, but we've never had ice like this. Never, not once in 50 years. I don't know about before 50 years, but this has been really a disaster for people. I saw a lady fall just earlier this afternoon trying to get from her car to the sidewalk. It's terrible.
Yes, you can't be too careful. Next on our agenda is comments from the public, and we're going to have sort of 2 sets. If you have comments about development or Geico or the Friendship Heights sector plan, please hold those off until we have the committee report on those, and then we'll open that up. So right now is everything, any comments except development, Geico, and Friendship Heights sector plan. But before I call people, I'd like to note that one of the recommendations made at the ICMA conference was to be very clear during the public comment period about the various ways that people can communicate with the village and village employees. So every council member has an email address, which you can find on the village website, and please feel free to send an email at any time. If you don't know who to send the email to concerning your topic, you can just send it to info@friendshipheightsmd.gov, and that's also on our website, and that will be either dealt with by our staff or funneled to the correct person. If you would like a copy of a specific existing document maintained by the village, you can submit a public information request. So, I'm sorry? To the village manager or to the info at blah, blah, blah. Yes. So now our comment period, this is for the general comments for 3 minutes to share information, concerns, or questions with the council. And our intent in this period is to hear from you and learn from you. It is not really to have a dialogue. But if there are simple factual questions, we'll try to answer them. For others, or if you feel like you're not getting what you need, please stay after. We can arrange a time to follow up with you. So I'm going to read names, and if you are here for a development, Geico, or sector plan topic, if you could hold off until later, you'll have a chance. So Susan Green.
Yeah, mine's about the sector plan.
Okay, thank you. Roger Cochetti.
Just a few quick things. First, on the snow disaster that we've had the last few days, one suggestion I'd make follows the practice of a few other jurisdictions, and that is we all know the problem. It's where the sidewalks and the streets come together, and then the plow comes and creates a big pile of snow, and the sidewalk being cleared doesn't solve it. I think if someone were to create a volunteer group or offer and publicize an opportunity to volunteer, if the village supplied people with ice picks and snow shovels, you would probably get a few dozen, if not a few hundred people who would volunteer to go and take care of that little strip that's needed. In fact, you might get some people say, we're the guardians for this corner or some such thing. So I think it can be solved through volunteerism, but the village has to provide the supplies and the organization. I've mentioned before my objection to having Zoom-only meetings of the committees, or for that matter, the council, as based on my belief that it excludes about a third of the village residents who will never participate in the Zoom. So there's simply cut out. I wanted to add there's a new development that I've experienced which makes it even more problematic going into the future. I participated in my first Zoom in which I thought I knew every one of the participants. It lasted about an hour. And then one of them afterwards explained to us that he had never been in the Zoom. It was an artificial presentation of him. So we're entering an era in which you don't know who is really on the Zoom, and this will increase and get better as time goes on. Last thing I wanted to mention is I've served on one committee, advisory committee, so I don't have a lot of experience. But I would say that what experience I have tells me that there's an important disclosure that really needs to be made in advisory committees. Did you know that I am being compensated by GEICO when I was appointed to a committee? Did you know that I was being compensated by City Center when I was appointed to a committee? Of course you didn't know, because nobody asked. Simply ask the question, are you being compensated by any party with an interest in the matters before the village? And if so, who's compensating you? Simple disclosure, I think, would be good government for everybody. And that's all my comments. Thanks.
Just so you know, we don't currently have the capability to have a dual Zoom in-person meeting, but we're looking into how to make that happen, okay?
You could usually use a cell phone. Set up a cell phone.
You could, but also, Councilmember Klein, does our ethics policy address the idea of disclosing where you get compensation if you're if you are a committee member?
And if you have a matter that's, are you being compensated by somebody who has, and some entity that has an interest before, not just any obviously everybody's getting some compensation from somebody, but from a matter before the council?
Madam Chair.
No, it doesn't address that. I think it becomes clear, based on the advisory committee that I'm on, what people's perspectives are. And I think that in and of itself is something people take into consideration. We've been meeting now on the development committee for quite a while, and I think that people have taken positions on things, and it's not surprising when they say certain things. And whether or not they're saying it out of their own belief, or whether it's because someone's paid them, it still is a comment that is assessed as to its reasonableness and whether other people agree with it. So I haven't been concerned about that in the same way I was concerned when I worked for the federal government, and the stakes were just different, and the sums of money and the policy issues just very different.
Can I offer a quick comment?
Sorry. Councilmember Mullen?
Yes, just a quick notation. For those watching, I think you need to know that Mr. Cachetti's specific comments about Geico were anything but subservient to them. He's been very critical, so I don't want people going away thinking perhaps he was giving something inappropriate. I do think, though, he raises an important fact, which I think unintentionally was not understood when many of the new advisory committee members were chosen. There is a process in our bylaws and by tradition that for many of these, the mayor appoints and the council then with the consent of the council. But we have sadly run amiss, because if you check carefully, you will see that on a number of instances, people were asked to be on the committees before the council even knew they were nominated, and we never got resumes. We certainly never got a chance to ask questions in any way to them. I think that should be remedied in the future. I know it was not intentional, and we have very good people on all the committees, so I'm not disparaging them. But it's
Thank
not
you.
it's not a pro forma thing that we should just automatically endorse everyone. It's intended that we have at least the opportunity. It's almost never used, but we should, each of us, and not just the person or persons that are nominating.
Thank you. Morris Antonelli?
Thank you. Morris Antonelli, I live in 4620 North Park. I'm here to speak a bit on Page Park, not to rehash any past history.
That's a
and-
blessing. Thank you.
Okay, but to go forward, I think that Page Park is in need of something, a unique character. With Humphrey Park, we have the fountain outside and lights and various other things. And I would like to propose for consideration from the council that we think in terms of some type of a sculpture, a prominent sculpture, something special. And I think that would be an addition to Page Park and to set it aside. What we have now, the pergola's down, that was a feature of the last iteration. But I think we're in need of something distinctive and of high quality. So I would like to propose that for consideration. Further, and I have no relationship to the sculptor Barton Rubenstein. Some of you may know his work. He happens to have a studio and in Somerset. And for any of you familiar with the Somerset Elementary School, one of his pieces is there. I think his children went there. And he has a number of pieces in the Washington area. American University has a couple, some others, and he is, I think, rather prominent worldwide with some sculpture sort of in the school with David Smith, the famous stainless steel type sculpture. So I just think that Page Park is in need of something distinctive, and a piece of high-quality art, I think, would be appropriate. If a committee is formed, I would volunteer to be part of that, but I have no formal relationship to Barton Rubenstein. I have been to his studio, and I'm a bit familiar with some of his work, so I get some of his mailings and things like that. So that is it. If any of you want to see that, a piece that is just 5 minutes away, the garden outside of Somerset Elementary School has a piece of his art that's been there for quite some time. That's all I have.
Thank you very much, and we know your name and how to follow up with you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That was an intriguing suggestion. Just so you know, before we were slightly detoured for 3 years on getting the park itself finished, the former chair of the Parks and Grounds Committee had looked into the potential of a sculpture piece around the edge of where the children's play area will be, and specifically looked at some of the Seward Johnson pieces, of which we have two here as a counterpart, with children involved. So you're on the same wavelength, and I certainly hope you will stay involved. It's a great idea.
I'm not proposing any particular place. I think that would be maybe up to the artists and the committee, but, well, thank you. I think it would be a positive outcome.
Thank you.
Bobby Pestronk?
Martha, sorry to learn about your fall tonight, and I hope it's only cosmetic and temporary.
I could have been a lot worse, but yeah, I was lucky. Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you, though.
With due respect to council members, since I was not provided an opportunity to respond to the mayor's comments at January's council meeting, other than to briefly note the performative deflection, which was consistent with his approach while I served on council with him, I respond now. Last month, I raised a concern regarding a potential conflict of interest related to the motion made in December for the installation of an EV charging station in the village and its use by anyone without charge. The motion was made by a council member who owns an electric vehicle and was supported by other council members whose ownership status was not disclosed. This now seems contrary to Sections 7 and 14 of the ethics policy discussed, ironically, at that meeting. I also stated that the experience of other communities that have installed EV charging stations were not accurately represented. Those communities implemented more cost-effective methods for installing and funding their charging stations. Additionally, I pointed out that all but one council member did not respond to questions I raised prior to the meeting, both through the village website and to each member directly. This followed a lack of response to a question I raised in January on a different matter. These failures to respond to raise additional concerns about transparency, responsiveness, and the lack of a foundation for a well-informed and involved community. Values raised in the last campaign's candidate literature. I ask residents and council members to consider the mayor's response to comments made by a resident last month. They reflect how the village and council are represented, how an elected official responds to residents is relevant to public discourse and civic engagement. Accuracy and respectful communication are important to maintain public trust. So, in addition, I wish to correct the mayor's statement that my family members and I used the village shuttle during my time in office. That statement is incorrect. So there was no conflict of interest in my vote to include funding for the shuttle in the fiscal year 26 budget. At the time of that vote, it was also reasonable to expect that any subsequent council action for installation would be based on appropriate and accurate research regarding installation and its cost. This appears not to have been the case. Thanks.
Mr. Pestronk, I think you're implying I had a conflict of interest because I have an electric vehicle, which you know, because I delivered vegetables to you from my garden in that car, which, so you know I have an electric vehicle. I have a charging station in my own condo. I don't need anyone else's. If there's something wrong with mine, I'll use my neighbor's. I have no interest in using, but I'm a strong believer in developing the infrastructure for electric vehicles. I'm very strong supporter of what Biden tried to do. It eliminates or it reduces the use of gas engines. It's better for the air. It's better for the noise. And I really am a little flummoxed. The actual cost to me is 67 cents a day for my car. So I'm a supporter of electric vehicles. I never made any, I didn't hide that. And I understand you voted 4 times for this and you never raised any of these questions. But I personally will not benefit from this. So I hope that addresses your concern.
Yeah, so let me respond to Mr. Robert Pestrunk's comments. First of all, I disagree with the premise of his remarks. Providing factual context is not a deflection. It's necessary for accuracy and an honest discussion. And as Councilmember Solt just mentioned, as a council member, Robert Pestronk voted 3 times, or maybe 4, to acquire or fund the charging station. He never raised these concerns during these votes. In his 2 years on the council, he never raised any concerns regarding incidental benefits council members receive simply by being village residents. And I never said that you rode the shuttle. That was an example that when we discussed the shuttle, you didn't volunteer if you rode or didn't ride the shuttle or ask any council members to disclose that. Councilmember Pestronk did not ever disclose personal benefits he received from village-funded amenities voted in the budget. And as I said, I used the shuttle contract as an example. All council members use village-funded services, but disclosing these incidental benefits has never been required or even expected. And to answer your question directly, that is why no council member mentioned what car they drive. As a council member, Mr. Pestronk had the opportunity to propose a disclosure policy, but did not. And as chair of the council, who literally set the agenda, if he wanted that discussion, we would have had it. But he never did that. And now he's criticizing this council for not following a policy that has never existed and he never suggested. Thanks.
Susan Hudson.
Yes. I want to make clear, so there's no confusion, that I don't think there's any problem with council members, as Councilwoman Solt has done, indicate whether they have an electric vehicle or not. And I think it unnecessarily clouds the issue. I don't have an electric car. This car is going to have to suffice for a few more years if I'm still around. So I think council members should not fear saying that they have one or don't have one. I think personally at this point it's irrelevant, and I thank the chair for sharing. I mean, I think we don't need to get into a back and forth, really.
Thank you. Susan Hudson.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I have a concern about the shuttle. I ride the shuttle, the new bus. I ride it in the morning and I ride it in the evening, most evenings. And there are several blind people who need to get on that bus.
Okay.
Couple of things. One, there are not enough seats for everybody, including some days you have a lot of people in the evening who are at Whole Foods who have walkers. To even get on the bus, even if they let the ramp down, it's so steep that some of them, you have to stand behind them so they don't fall backwards. Once they are on the bus, now you have all of this space where they can put their walkers, but there's no place for them to sit. So it's almost not feasible. I don't know who decided that we get this shuttle, but it's almost not feasible for all the people who ride it, especially in the evening. Now, the lady, there's a blind lady, and she's blind and she's deaf. So in the mornings, you know, there's somebody who helps her on and helps her off. Sometimes the ramp works and sometimes it doesn't. New bus, new shuttle, but it has a lot of issues. So I'm thinking that maybe some of the council members can maybe like ride it one morning when people are getting on and going to work, or ride it in the evening when people are coming home, so you can see what I'm saying. And I'm speaking on behalf, I know a lot of them couldn't come because they can't, because of the ice. So I'm able-bodied, and I'm more than willing to help anybody get on and off the shuttle, but if somebody like me or, you know, Patrick or Ron, who drives it in the evening, if we're not there, like we had a new shuttle driver tonight, he was late, and he didn't get off to help anybody do anything, you know, to get on. I had to help the
That was tonight?
That was tonight. That's why I was late coming to the meeting, because he was late coming around, and then you got to help people on and off because he didn't know how to work the ramp. So I'm just saying, I think we might need to rethink the shuttle just for the people, you know, who, you know, need a little bit more help. There needs to be more seating for sure the middle seats, there's a hump, right? I mean, so
Yes.
only one, yeah.
I
so
know.
you know,
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, it's really not feasible for all those who need to ride it. Thank you.
Can I just ask you,
Yes.
do you notice this more now with the snow and the ice? Are there more people riding now with snow and ice where you've noticed this, or is this a constant?
It's a constant.
Okay.
Now, because Amazon Fresh just closed today, so, and a lot of people will get on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we may not have as many, but it's just a lot of unused space and not enough space for those who need it to sit. You know, especially those with walkers and, you know, the blind. Because it's 2 blind people who ride in the morning when I get on, so.
Okay. And just so you know, we do have a shuttle bus, do we call it an ad hoc advisory committee? Is that what it's called? And we will, a number of us participate in that. I know, Allison, you're the council member on there, and maybe you can talk a little bit about how she might be able to participate, but I do have notes on what you're saying.
So our next meeting, I believe, is on the 23rd. Is that what we had to reschedule our shuttle bus meeting because of the snow?
Okay.
So it was rescheduled to the 23rd. You're welcome to join us, of course. Sure. I have a quick question. In the afternoons or evenings, when is it particularly busy? I tend to ride in the middle of the afternoon when there's not as many people, but I want to get on when it's busy
Right.
to see.
So anytime after 6. So-
After 6, okay, not a problem.
Okay.
I will definitely take that. If somebody else can do the mornings, that would be great, but, but I will do that. Please come to the meeting. We are addressing some of these issues. I know that Charlie, who is the head of that committee, he had raised the issue of the ramp, certainly, and of the seating, and noted that it was a priority. So I'm glad that you're chiming in. We agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're ready for the village manager's report.
Thank you. Just a quick sort of debrief, or hopefully not too much of a rehash, but about the snow removal. And I just wanted to point out a few things. And obviously, this was a very difficult event, as everyone knows. And in my time here, probably unprecedented in terms of the amount of ice and the amount of time to remove the snow. This was not an event that could just be dealt with in a few days like the typical ones that we have. But I wanted to thank the buildings and the property owners for generally doing very well, as they have in the past. And this was a tough one, but I think they did very well with the sidewalk clearing, which we always appreciate. It is the county law, but a lot of other places it's not done very well. And here, consistently, the buildings do a very good job of removing the snow from their properties. And I think our contractor did quite well under the circumstances, but this required lots of back and forth and follow-up, particularly with the ramps to the crosswalks. And I just wanted to sort of clarify, the village does not take care of Willard Avenue and Wisconsin Avenue, and I had several requests to clear snow from those areas, but I did put in service calls to 311 Montgomery County, and anyone can do that. There's a snow removal sort of website portal within 311 where you can make these service requests, and they will follow up. We did see some follow-up from the county on a couple areas on Willard Avenue, but those are not maintained by the village. Thank you.
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just one thing, just so you know, the ramps bordering the metro are still blocked. You have to walk in the street. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did report those as
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yeah, I just want to be clear of what is something we do and what's not, and give my opinion on it as well. When we have a snow like this, because, let's use Wisconsin Avenue as a rule, and it's the parts of Wisconsin Avenue that are sidewalks, they're property owners, and they're supposed to deal with that. We don't have any extension of jurisdiction on the east side of Wisconsin Avenue. It's not in the village, it doesn't even abut the village, it's across the street. But on the west side of Wisconsin Avenue, let's say South Park and Wisconsin Avenue, the north and south ramps, I think we do have to clear those. And I'm hoping, I think you had in fact our contractor clear those. And I feel the same about Willard on, Highland, Hills Road and and Friendship Boulevard, that we have responsibility for those ramps as well. Otherwise, they fall into no person zone.
That's right, and we did have those cleared. It did require some follow-up, but the South Park in Wisconsin,
Yes.
the two ramps crossing South Park at Wisconsin.
Yes.
But not the ramps going across Wisconsin.
That's right.
And the same thing on Willard and Hills Plaza and Willard and Friendship
Well,
Boulevard and
yeah.
Willard and Shoemaker and Willard and North Park. We do the crosswalks on the side of Willard, but when you cross Willard itself, it's Montgomery County, and
Yeah.
I did have several people ask me about that. But
So you've raised another issue in my mind, which is that when I said the west side of, and the north and south ramps, you're saying that we shouldn't clear the ramp that is at South Park and Wisconsin Avenue if it's facing in the direction of, if it's facing east? Is that what you're saying, because it's on Wisconsin?
yes, crossing Wisconsin. Crossing
Well, I think
Wisconsin
we
from
can-
either side is not
Maybe we need
not
some
ours.
discussion about that. I don't know how other people feel about that, but with Willard especially, I think as you walk down the hill and you want to cross over to, let's say, Whole Foods, I fully agree that we shouldn't be doing anything on the other side of Willard Avenue. That definitely, but for that crossing, that ramp that gets you to the metro, gets you across the street, for us to say that because the ramp is facing the direction to cross Willard, that we won't deal with it is, too fine a point for me. I think in a snow like this, we should really be doing more to assist with the recovery, since we already have people there and they're already doing the work. So that's just something I put on the table.
Oh, okay. Just to clarify, it's not just the ramp across Willard; it's the entire sidewalk on Willard. That on our side of Willard is not the village's responsibility either.
No,
The sidewalk on Willard is Montgomery County,
Yeah,
and
what-
so the crosswalks across are theirs as well.
Yeah.
But just to clarify that.
I think, I understand we've got jurisdictions that are involved, but what happens is the people who clear the sidewalk are not dealing with the ramp. They don't see the ramp as the sidewalk, and I understand why they don't. The people who come to clear the street are not necessarily dealing with the ramp either. So for me, it means that the ramp never gets cleared, and that's the problem. Julian, who would you say would clear the ramp that's crossing, when you're on Willard and you want to go from Hills to the side that has Whole Foods? Who's responsible for clearing that ramp?
That's the county, and we did get the county to respond to a 311 request to clear the ramp across Willard at Friendship Boulevard.
And how long did that take?
It took.
See,
I did have to report it and follow up, so it's not instant, but yes, but
I think it, in a situation like this, the community recovery, the difference in cost, the difference in time, we already have a contractor that very capably cleared the ramps when they were fully within our jurisdiction. I looked at them tonight, they looked good on North Park. I just think that it's too fine a point.
I would add, as of today, you still cannot get to the Metro. The ramps are blocked. You have to walk in the street, then you have to walk in the bus lane. There's no way you can get there without either going on ice or trying to get over piles of snow. And what are we, is this day 9 or 10 or something? And a lot of people have to go to work, and it's really
This
unsafe.
is, yeah, 2
Well-
weeks, actually.
Does the council want to take a position on whether these, the ramp next to it that faces in the direction to Cross Hills, we are clearing? So these are 2 handicap ramps that are virtually next to one another in an area where we're doing a lot of work already. And it would be my hope that the council would support clearing those ramps as well.
Do you want to make a motion on that?
I move that we extend our snow removal to the ramps that are at South Park and Willard. Those are crosswalks, and they should be cleared with our assistance after a major snow like we had. I didn't hear, was there a second? Yes.
Yeah, there's this, I'm sorry, can I read what I have, or do you need to go next?
No, I'd like to clarify what the request is, so please proceed.
And Vic, or Secretary Basil, can I read what I have and maybe compare it to what you have?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, I have, Council Member Klein moves to extend snow removal to ramps and crosswalks at South Park. And did you mean at the
Yeah.
intersection of South Park and Willard? Or,
It's the,
There is no intersection of
okay,
South Park and
obviously,
Willard.
so.
We're talking about Willard or
Ramps and
Wisconsin.
crosswalks on South Park and Willard.
Wisconsin.
And
It's South
Wisconsin.
Park and Wisconsin.
Okay.
It is the west side of South Park and Wisconsin, and it should be all 4 ramps that appear at that corner should be cleared by the village.
Do you have comments near the Metro?
Excuse me?
Do you have comments about accessing to the Metro? Because that doesn't get you to the Metro.
No, it's also down at Hills and Willard, and that's the north side of Hills and Willard. So it's the north side of Willard and the east and west sides of Hills that need to be, all 4 ramps need to be cleared. And is there another one?
Friendship,
Um,
the one in front of Chipotle, like on the corner where the little park is, going across Willard. So it's Friendship.
Okay.
So Friendship and Willard also needs to be cleared.
Okay, could I suggest that we say additional intersections, and then we can provide
Yes.
these separately? Would, I guess I'm making a motion to amend the motion?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Is the seconder fine with that? Okay. So do you understand what we're saying now?
Not entirely.
Okay, this is what I have. The motion is to extend the village's snow removal efforts to the ramp, to additional ramps and crosswalks, specifics to be provided.
Is the guiding principle that we're just extending where we're already doing some and we're only doing the ones next to it? Because
Yes.
that does not apply to the metro ramps. There are 4 corners of Willard in Wisconsin, and none of them were doing anything at any of those 4 corners. So if you want to extend to all of those,
Well-
you're going beyond what I
Willard-
thought was
so-
the guiding principle here.
Yes, there is one, you're saying Willard and Wisconsin is also an issue. And there, so that one, did we do anything on that ramp?
We don't do
Julie?
anything at Willard in Wisconsin on any of the four corners. So South Park in Wisconsin, which you mentioned, and Hills Plaza and Willard and Friendship and Willard, we're
And that's
doing the
because-
ones that are right
yeah.
next to the ones that aren't getting done. So I
That-
understood that
that's
rationale.
right.
But that rationale doesn't really apply to Willard in Wisconsin. That's just what I'm pointing out.
I personally am okay if we're not interfering with the work someone else is doing, and it doesn't seem like we were. That's another corner. That corner is within the village. I mean, the sidewalk is, and I realize that's a technical matter, but that is part of the village. The store there, the property there is within the confines of the village, and so I think that we should include that as well.
The snowplows don't go out onto Wisconsin Avenue. That would be a completely,
But they have the little, what do you call them, the caterpillars?
Bobcat.
They have the bobcats, which is what they used for
yeah, but
those
they're
corners.
focused, they're focused on within the village. If you clear the intersections and the handicap ramps at the base of Hills Plaza and the base of Friendship Boulevard, people can walk across, hopefully, and go right next to Whole Foods into the metro. They don't have to use the Wisconsin-Willard intersection at all. They just follow the Whole Foods right in. There's an entrance right there. They can walk in.
Well,
That is true, but it has steps, and some people can't do that, so there's an escalator at the other.
Well, you're.
Could I suggest we have a continuing conversation on the specifics and move forward with this?
that's fine. I do think the bobcats would be available, and I understand why it would be difficult for people to understand why we didn't clear that. Because I think we're forgetting that Highland House is also part of the village, and those folks come out very close to Wisconsin. They wouldn't be going down hills. They would be going across on those streets, along the medical buildings and Starbucks and the other streets to the corner of Willard and Wisconsin and crossing over there. So if we could clear that ramp as well, I think we would really be doing a public service to residents who live in Highland House and,
The Highland House people can theoretically at least take the bus that stops right, the shuttle bus, and the shuttle bus then goes around to Whole Foods and drops them off there.
they could, or they could also walk across.
Well,
So what were you suggesting, Martha, as far as what we
Well-
should do?
Well, I was hoping these ramps and crosswalks that get us to the metro and these other places that you mentioned, we could provide assistance to Montgomery County. We're closer. I mean, I think we owe it to our residents to help them get to work. Not, if everybody trying to get to the metro from the village was riding the shuttle, it wouldn't work. That's just not what it's designed for. And I've seen people fall crossing the street. And if there's a simple solution, I mean, I understand jurisdiction's difficult, but aren't we all supposed to help out in an emergency? You know, I think relying on, whose responsibility it is when we're right there, it kind of defeats the point of neighborliness.
Yes.
Well, the reason, as I understand it, that nothing on Willard, Wisconsin was done was because that's outside of our jurisdiction. And I thought our attorney had said, definitely don't do any of the sidewalks there because that's outside of our jurisdiction. And if we begin doing it and someone slips, they will legally accuse us of not
Well,
doing it right.
Mayor, could you check on that with our village manager?
Excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry.
Whether it's not legal for us to do that?
I didn't
I
say
don't
that. I
think-
said our attorney,
I don't
our attorney
think-
advised us long ago
I don't think
not
it's
to do
a-
anything on those sidewalks, and the sidewalks are.
Okay, to see if that's
We're
a current
not,
recommendation.
we're not talking about the sidewalks, I want to be clear. I feel that property owners are responsible for sidewalks. This is a cardinal principle of the law. And as you know, Al, you and I spoke during this aftermath of the storm, and we coordinated getting some additional coverage with Julian's help and initiative. So that was a happy circumstance. I feel that we are missing an opportunity to assist the village because the intersection of Willard and Wisconsin is an important intersection, and if we can help clear the ramps, I'm not talking about the sidewalks, and I'm not talking about the street, but I am talking about the ramps, which fall into a no-man's zone, and that's where the problem is.
I completely share your frustration. In fact, the first day after the storm, when I thought it was safe to walk around, with my 2 walking sticks, I got to that intersection at South Park in Wisconsin, and I couldn't get through, and I almost fell over. So I completely understand. The question of the sidewalks, though, is someone is doing the sidewalks, and we simply, the Bobcats, whatever, don't go around Wisconsin and Willard. So we clear things off, and then the county or the state comes through with their snowmobiles, and they push it back over again. And we're not, meaning our snow removal people, aren't checking out there. They're within the village going round and round and round
Yeah,
and round.
I think they can do it, because I saw what they did at South Park and Wisconsin, and he was very adept, the operator, at making sure that none of the snow was pushed back onto the sidewalk or into the middle of the street. So I don't think that's the issue. I think it's an issue of whether or not we commission them to do it, if I can use that word. And I would like to go forward with the intersections that we do agree on, Martha. And I'd like
I'm for
Julian
that,
to
too.
find out what our contractor says about whether they could help with that Wisconsin and Willard Avenue.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now we'll have the vote. All in favor, say aye. Whoops, I'm sorry.
I don't have the second. Who seconded that?
It was Councilmember Mueller. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, all in favor, say aye and raise your hand. It looks unanimous, so that motion passes. And, you know, I'll consult with you afterwards, Secretary Basil, just to make sure we have the same language, okay?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Do you have more on your village manager's report?
No, and I just wanted to clarify, this vote was about all the other intersections, but not Willard and Wisconsin, and we'll follow up with Willard and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Now, we have mayor's announcements.
Okay, thank you. This will be quick. So the developer of the Geico property will be presenting plans for the redevelopment of the Geico site at a community meeting on Thursday, February 19th at 7 p.m. at Westland Middle School in Bethesda. This is a public meeting, and a notice of the meeting has been placed on the village website. My announcements. I also want to thank people for coming out to the Winterfest celebration. I was surprised by the 175 people. I want to thank the staff for their efforts. The original plans called for us to accommodate some people outside, and because of the weather, they really had to scramble and adjust the arrangements, and it was seamless, but there's a lot of work that goes on that people don't see. There was some comments about getting in touch with council members. I want to mention that all council members have office hours by appointment, so we can meet with you at a time that's good for you. And the last thing I want to mention is that in our budget, we have a $5,000 line item for new initiatives. And the CAC has been working on that. They've been scoring the applications. I believe there were 9. And next month, I'm not sure if they're going to present it, but we intend to discuss those proposals, look at their recommendations, and hopefully approve one or more of them. Thank you.
Treasurer's report?
All right, thank you, Martha. For the first 7 months of the fiscal year through January, our budget remains in pretty good shape this year compared to last. Adjusting for one-time receipts, revenues are down less than 1% compared to last year, and that primarily reflects an $18,000 reduction in parking enforcement for the first 7 months of the year. Expenditures are up approximately 4%, reflecting salaries, benefits, and an increase in village center maintenance costs, with a offset based on a reduced cost of the bus contract. My preliminary estimates suggest we're likely to finish the year with a $400,000 surplus, so that's pretty good. Our current reserve balance remains strong at approximately $5 million. Next year, things are expected to get a little bit tighter, mainly because we're looking at an estimated $240,000 approximate decline in income tax revenue due to slowing economic growth, including the federal government shutdown and layoffs. Going forward, we have a special meeting scheduled for February 20th, where staff and Finance Committee members will be reviewing the initial 2020 fiscal year 27 operating and capital budget proposals. We are hoping to submit the FY 27 budget proposal at the April council meeting, but that's tentative depending on how things go. One big change we are planning to put forward is a capital plan and budget that include project descriptions, status updates, budget and out-year cost estimates, updated monthly as part of our regular budgeting process. Another item on the agenda includes development of a more transparent and comprehensive transaction review process. The process is going to require, the transaction review process, I should say, is going to require some tweaks and/or upgrades to our software. I'm working with Donna Bryan on that, and because of the complexity and the amount of work involved, I've put off for now the closely related proposal to streamline check signing procedures until we do have a more comprehensive review process in place. So that's my report.
Treasurer Conlow, I understood you to say that the projection, although there'll be some changes, I'm sure, but the possible overage is going to be $400,000 or thereabouts this year, and next year you're thinking that the one-time large amount of money we receive this year, the income we won't get, and maybe $200,000 less. Does that mean we're still anticipating for next year a roughly $200,000 surplus?
I think I can't say specifically at this point. I think it is likely to get tighter, and some of the very high-level estimates that I've done suggest it could be even lower than 200,000. So,
but still a surplus.
But still a surplus. Correct.
Still a surplus without changing the tax rate and keeping all of the amenities the same, except anything that we do, of course, in capital improvements, which comes out of not our income.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember or Mayor?
Yeah, I want to clarify something. That $400,000, that's before capital expenses?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? I didn't mention this before. If you feel comfortable, could you tell us the status of the pedestrian safety study, where we are now? If you know, if you'd rather pass, that's okay.
I might defer to Julian on that one.
Okay.
The short answer is the status has been somewhat waylaid by the weather. We did have the kickoff meeting with the contractor, and following that, their next step was to start studying traffic data and collecting data on traffic patterns and speeds, but that required installing some equipment on the roads and cameras and things that they have not been able to do with the ice buildup. So I think that's where that is.
So
at
the
moment.
weather's delayed us, basically?
Correct.
Okay.
Martha, I wonder if
Yes.
we could go into the Finance Committee, and then that would be seamlessly then into the development issues, rather than have my report on the development.
Okay, sure. Finance Committee next. I guess that's Councilmember Conlon.
I think I really covered most of the issues. I think the one thing that we talked about quite a bit at the last Finance Committee meeting was quite a bit of research that I did on our check signing and transaction review procedures. I did find, as a result of that research, that there's no precedent that I could find for check signing procedures where two elected officials sign checks. The standard process is usually one appointed official, such as a finance or village chair, finance director or village chair, and one elected official. In terms of transaction review, I think that, and I've talked quite a bit with staff about this, and they've been very helpful. The county recommends that you have a regular transaction review procedure in place where you're looking at transactions and making sure that you understand them and that everything is in order. It's sort of a bit of an ongoing audit review process. And we don't really have that. We're kind of using check signing as auditing process, and that's not really standard procedure, and it tends to overburden staff because they have to coordinate with two elected officials on every check. But anyway, bottom line on this is we're still working on this. There's a lot of issues that need to be looked at, including potential upgrades, revisions to our accounting system, so we have easier and more transparent access to them. So that's what we're working on right now. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we're going to keep working on it. Thank you.
Can I make a suggestion, since we've rejiggered here? We can do the Advisory Committee on Development, then the vote on the letter, and then I can do the update on Parks and Grounds, because the letter relates to. Right, and we're going to take questions and comments on development after Councilmember Klein's report. So does anybody object to that? It seems more logical. Okay, so we would move on to Advisory Committee on Development, and after this piece, people will have a chance to come to the microphone.
Well, several months ago, when I moved to, at Roy's, the mayor's request, to work with the Advisory Committee on Development, I did not know exactly how complicated this was going to be and how much is going on. It's a wonderful committee, and I commend everybody who is serving on it. And I think we found our stride, and we're doing really well. So I'm happy about that. But there is a lot going on in the county that gives me pause, and that's part of the learning experience for me. There are many outstanding permits where people have decided not to go forward with the work because of the downturn in the economic situation facing the county, which is in part, if not major part, related to what's happened with the federal government. There's just less demand. At the same time, county officials are intent on seeing that more housing is built under what has been referred to, as a trickle-down effect, that it doesn't matter where we put the housing, we just need to keep building it in order to satisfy the need for more housing and more affordable housing. In our own community, when we look at the projects that were imminent, we have a project that was Maggiano's. The Maggiano building was supposed to come down, and Cheesecake Factory already closed. Cheesecake and Maggiano's, both restaurants, were sharing the same parking garage. Cheesecake closed, then shortly after that, Maggiano, the project is not going forward. So that's one thing that's not going forward. We have, closer to home, a project at the corner of South Park and Wisconsin Avenue. We were supposed to have another major high-rise there. That's been in the works for a number of years. That's not going forward, last we heard, because of issues with financing and demand. Now we learned that the Saks Fifth Avenue is not going to be with us as a store in hard store. It's going into bankruptcy. So the likelihood is that that property is going to be sold as well. And at the same time, we have the sector plan. The sector plan anticipates that there will be more housing there of uncertain height. And of course, we have the Geico property, where Geico is set to begin a new development of their property, and hundreds of units of housing are anticipated there. If you think about what I'm saying, there are no more roads that are coming from this, and no more schools at present, but an awful lot of plans for additional housing in our immediate area. And when we look in the village proper, we have our issues with Parcel 6, which is the parcel between Shoemaker Lane and 4620 on the south side of North Park. And we have the medical building in Parcel 4, which is at the corner of North Park and Friendship Boulevard, the northwest corner of Friendship Boulevard and North Park. And the planning board has told us on all these sites it's to be housing, housing, and more housing. With Parcel 6, we wrote a letter. The council voted on having a letter go to the planning staff to tell the planning staff that we do not want a high-rise building on Parcel 6. You may recall, if you're familiar with North Park, that the Willoughby, the Carlton, the Elizabeth, and 4620 and 4615, the condominiums in 4615, which is a rental high-rise, Parcel 6 sits in the middle of all of those buildings. And the buildings that are on Parcel 6, which are all low scale. And they've been low scale since all of those other buildings went up in the 70s. And the sector plans have said for 50 years, covering 50 years, that those are supposed to be low scale for visual diversity, for light, and for green space. Now, we heard from the planning staff, they say they want a building there of 150 feet. That is not low scale. It's quite the opposite. And it will cut off light and green space to all of the surrounding buildings. And if you have any questions about this, you can take a look at the shadows at around 10 a.m. in the morning. You can go out to North Park and take a look at the shadows that are cast by the buildings that are already there, and you can see how much light will be diminished and how little visual diversity there will be. So with Geico, residents at the Willoughby and others are concerned about a canyon along Willard, And we're concerned about a canyon effect on North Park. The folks that look at parcel 6, including some in the Willoughby. So I give you an overview of where we are. We will continue to promote our point of view. And our point of view is that there should be thoughtful development, that green space needs to be protected, that there needs to be diversity in height, and that the trees, the green space is a top priority, and we need to protect those on parcel 6, we need to protect them on parcel 4, we need to protect them at the Geico building. With that said, the Development Committee has begun meeting with candidates for office. We've already met with 3 candidates for office for District 1. We've met with Debbie Spielberg, Drew Morrison, and Julie Yang, and we're continuing to meet with other candidates, at-large candidates for the council, because the sector plan will be going to the council for final review. And they do a pretty thorough review, and if we have issues with the sector plan, as I think we will, based on what we've been told so far, we will be able to take our plea for more sensible development to the council proper. We're also starting to meet next week with candidates from, that are running for at-large seats on the council. But it's going to be a very busy time, and I think this is a consequential election that's coming up for members of the council. I think you need to, as a concerned voter, understand what the viewpoints are of the different candidates that are running. And in the months ahead, I'll be happy to discuss it a little more. So tonight we have on the agenda another letter to go to Parks and Planning about the briefing they gave us, in which they told us they were going to say that there could be a building on parcel 6 that goes up 150 feet, and that they are willing to have another such building on the site of the current medical building at the corner of North Park and Friendship Boulevard. So that was more than maybe you expected, Martha?
No,
But
never too much from you, right. Unless council members have comments or questions, I think we're going to open the microphone. And first will be Susan Green.
Good evening. I'm Susan Green. I'm an owner and I live in the Willoughby. And I didn't have a chance to see these preliminary recommendations before I walked in today, but they're very thoughtful and I appreciate them. And I do agree with the recommendations for parcels 4 and 6, that they not be changed the way the current sector plan, or the change in the sector plan envisions them as going up so high. And the point that I've made directly to planning staff in writing is that, especially on parcel 4, if they make that building so much taller, our grandmothers and our grandfathers in Brighton Gardens will be in shade and gloom all afternoon. And do we really want them to spend their later years like that? We need that green space in front of the low-rise medical building. It's really important. The one thing I didn't see emphasized in these preliminary recommendations that is important to me and probably other people whose apartments look out on Willard Avenue is this new height overlay that would allow a row of buildings going down Willard and around the corner onto Friendship Boulevard. Unless I've misunderstood, the height would be 200 feet. And that turns upside down the promise that was made to us in the 1998 sector plan. And I quote, the plan recommends, this is 1998, preserving views from existing high-rise apartment buildings by incorporating guidelines for the height and location of new development, and then by tree preservation and planting. But that's completely opposite the 200-foot height. What that will do to those of us who live in the village but look across the street towards the Geico area, that devalues our property greatly. Yes, I'll lose my views. I'll be staring at 200-foot buildings. I look right out on the corner of Friendship and Willard. But lots of other people going down for the next 2 blocks are going to lose their views too, and they'll be in the shade, and the value of their apartments will go down. So I would ask the committee to look really hard at how that height overlay for Willard and Friendship will affect those of us in the village.
Thank
We
you. I know many share your concern.
I'm sorry, Martha.
I'm-
I apologize. Yes, we agree with you completely. And we're waiting to have the meeting on the Geico property on the 19th. I think there'll be a letter that goes out before then, actually, by our attorney, who is working on a letter, Dave Brown, who's helped us with all of this. And we are very concerned about the heights and the loss of trees over on the Geico property. And it's the same problem. It's the fact that you promise green space and then you cut off sunlight to what is a naturally occurring retirement community. We have young people too, and proud of it, but this community is of non-transients. We have decided, many of us, to retire here in Maryland, in this location, and there's a certain consideration that should be given, which was reflected in the earlier sector plans.
Exactly.
And this whole pressure cooker that we're talking about, that's why I took the time to explain that this is a perspective that's being promulgated all over the county and even in the state. I think personally it's short-sighted. I do not think it will result in a good outcome in the end. I don't think it will give us more affordable housing, and I think it will undermine the health and well-being of our communities. So I quite agree with you, and we will be doing more on the Geico site as well.
Thank you. I'll probably be at that meeting. May I make one more? I'm sorry. Did you?
I think we may have some other people, so.
Okay.
Okay, but you could always send an email and contact anyone here.
Yes,
okay?
I will. Thank you.
Councilmember Mueller?
Is it Ms. Green?
Green, yes.
Thank you. I was on the advisory group for the last sector plan.
Turn, yeah.
I was on the advisory group for the last sector plan, and you picked out the most key sentence in there, which is the strongest part of what the vice chair has been defending, and that is, in the sector plan, that the county should protect those in high rises, not just those in surrounding communities that also need to be protected. And the first sector plan, the one before the present one, was initiated to decrease the density. Up until the 70s, the buildings were tall, like your building, the Willoughby, like the Willard Towers, like the Barlow Building, and the density was twice as much as was then allowed. It was lowered. What they're doing now, quite simply, is going back to to the way it was in the 1960s when there was a countywide rebellion against being so dense. And if you listen carefully, which you obviously are doing, they have said that buildings that have been approved now are just as big as these tall buildings. So what's the problem, they say? Well, the problem is they're not supposed to be building as big as they were in the 60s. That's why you see the Carlton much smaller. They're slowly but surely going backwards. And nothing has changed. The same concerns that Councilwoman Klein expressed, that you expressed, are still there. The density impacts the quality of life. Yes, nothing has changed except in 50 years, they have different people at Park and Planning. The ones that were there in 1998 understood, and they essentially continued the first sector plan. So thank you for catching this.
Yes, this is obviously an important issue. Anyone else, whether or not they signed up, does anyone want to talk about? I'm sorry? Sure. Still the 3 minutes.
Yes, Roger Cochetti, and I've spoken on this issue many times before. When this topic first came up over a year ago, I tried to point out that this whole concept, as it regards Friendship Heights, of opportunity zones, in effect treats the space in Friendship Heights as if it was an Amazon warehouse, and we residents are simply commodities put on the shelves, and make the shelves taller, and you can't have any floor space without a shelf, and we need to be treated as something other than a commodity. I certainly agree with the recommendations as far as they go. I think, as the discussion just showed, they should go much further. I think the council should strongly emphasize that the concept of preserving the view and preserving access to the moon and the stars and the clouds and the sky is important for all parts of Friendship Heights, not just Parcel 4 and Parcel 6, but the Saks site, the Geico site, and all sites, that is a premium priority. And I think, as I've said before, it is also important in our goal to attract families to come to Friendship Heights that we strongly urge the council, the county planning department, to stop its emphasis on increasing population density in what's already the most densely populated neighborhood next to any metro site in the county, but that they emphasize creating green space, significant green space that is appropriate for children and families with children, which will bring a completely new demographic to our community. So I think those points need to be emphasized as well. I support the recommendations as far as they go, but the principle of preserving views should be emphatically presented as applying to all parts. People whose view of Saks or people whose view of Geico are no different than people whose view of Parcel 4 and Parcel 6. Thanks.
Yeah. We're taking these one step at a time because we had a meeting with them that specifically dealt with the village. So this is the response to that. We will be making other responses as time goes forward. We already spoke on the Geico. There was a letter from Mayor Schaefer telling them to keep it green, not to have high-rise buildings on Willard, and they've just ignored us. That's the thing that we're finding. That's why we're going to continue to build a case so that if we have a council that's responsive, maybe we can get their attention. I think there's a real problem with the roads, too, because we're going to have bike lanes, more bike lanes in our future than we have now. And someone told me the other day that they want to put an express bus down Wisconsin Avenue. It already goes to Bethesda. They want it to come further down there to us. If you have a bike lane and you have an express lane, I just don't understand how you have a street that works anymore, since there are commuters and there are people who go to the medical building, for instance, and they get let off in front. and they need to pull up to that curb. So there's special considerations that we have along Wisconsin Avenue in this part of Friendship Heights. Anyway, I just say this so you know that we hear you and we agree with you.
Thank you very much. We're moving on to old business, which is discussion vote on submitting comments from the Village Council to the Montgomery County Planning Board on the Friendship Heights Sector Plan preliminary recommendations.
Excuse
I'm sorry,
me, Madam
yes?
Chair. Parks and Grounds Committee report.
We were
We're gonna-
gonna do it later because it flows from what.
Understood, thank you.
And then I'm thinking maybe pass and move on because we're running behind. Most of it they learned from Jim anyway, so.
Understood.
I would note that this letter has been on the website for, at least a few days? Or how long has it been up there?
Posted today.
Today, okay. And there's been copies of it as you came in, and for council members, it's behind tab 3. So who is taking the lead on this?
John.
Okay.
Well, thanks. I think Francine has done a pretty good job already explaining the issue. I do want to emphasize, however, that it's not intended to be comprehensive. There are issues that we need to address more thoroughly. One of the purposes of this letter is that the Friendship, or the Montgomery County Planning staff is presenting their preliminary recommendations. They're presenting them to the Planning Board on Thursday. What this letter is intended to do is to make sure that our voice is heard at this initial Planning Board committee meeting, because I think it's very important that the village speak up, and this is just one of a number of letters that we've already put forward and we will continue to put forward. So with that said, should I make a motion? Okay. I move that the council approve the comments on Friendship Heights Sector Plan update preliminary recommendations, and that the mayor transmit these comments to the Montgomery County Planning Board by noon tomorrow. Thanks.
And so there's a motion, there's a second.
Who's the second?
Yeah, Al? That means discussion. I mean, we heard some, if you have more to add, John, or other people have any thoughts? I very, very strongly recommend this letter. I think it's very well done and in a concise way explains what our issues are and provides visuals besides just words. So I'm strongly in favor of this.
I want to thank John for his initiative and hard work. This is a product of your creation, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So unless there are more comments or questions, I think we're ready to vote. So all in favor of the motion, which I won't repeat, say aye or raise their hand. So it looks like it's unanimous, so this motion passes. And will you coordinate, Mayor, on getting that out as soon as possible, maybe tonight? Okay, thank you. As I said, I think I'm going to pass on the Parks and Grounds Committee. Much of the really interesting stuff has been shared by our project manager. So that moves us to the discussion vote on proposed amendment to the village bylaws. As you may know, these types of changes require what's called a supermajority, and that is 5 votes to pass, and it needs to have been submitted at a prior meeting, which was done. So, Councilmember Muller, I guess I give the floor to you, is that correct?
I didn't realize we were moving that quickly, but
I'm sorry, did I miss something?
No, I didn't realize that you moved the items around on the agenda.
But it's the next one after the letter. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
in any case, I introduced what I thought was a simple motion, and it was accepted, I thought, without any discussion, to have it on the agenda as we require for essentially 2 meetings. The motion was to add a section in our bylaws that all council or advisory committee meetings shall be open to the public, and public notice shall be posted at least 2 days in advance of such meetings. Very simple. Council will recall that presently the bylaws have regular meetings where there's at least a 2-day notice and an agenda. The bylaws presently have special meetings where there's a 3-day notice required, except if an emergency. The bylaws presently have work sessions where at least there are 2 days and an agenda required. And public hearings, at least 7 days notice. This is all intended to have the public transparently know what's going on with enough time to consider it and either send us written comments or to come as you all have come tonight. The intent of my amendment was simply to bring the advisory groups that are open to the public up to such a standard. And apparently there were some thoughts expressed in emails, and I would like to just respond or answer that. There was a concern that there hasn't essentially been any problem so far, but I think we've seen a lot of good work done on the Ethics Committee, on other committees where we haven't had any problems, but we don't want to have problems going into the future. There was also concern that there haven't been, although there were in earlier days, sometimes not enough notice that this is an old concern and it's really gone. There's no problem now. Well, actually, just last week, we had essentially a work session. You heard tonight the reference made to a session where the village managers told us what they had learned at the professional meeting. That was all very interesting, and it was a public meeting, but that only had a 1-day notification. I think residents, if they were interested, needed a little bit more time to digest it. I'm glad we had the meeting. The chair called the meeting, and kudos to her. The only intent, again, was to put all the committees that are mentioned under the same transparency ruling, namely that there be notice. I used at least 2 days' notice, whereas, as I said at the beginning, there could be 7 days or 3 days, depending on some of these other council meetings. So I simply ask again for something that I thought was just a simple, unobjectionable update of the bylaws. And I make that as a motion, the same as I did before, and hope that I can have a second and we can discuss it. Thank you.
A second? Is there a second available for this? That would be John? Or Councilmember Conlon? So, as the maker of the motion, would you like the floor again, or do you feel you've said everything you?
I think I've said everything I want to. I'd
Okay.
rather hold any comments if there are thoughts that I can answer or respond to.
Okay. Comments, or? I have some, or you can go first. I agree with the underlying objective, that we should give notice as much as we can. I agree that we should have open meetings that people are, come to when they are so moved to come. I don't think it should be a requirement. I think one of the reasons there is not a requirement on committee meetings is decisions made at committee meetings are generally not final. They're only final when it's a council meeting, and that elevates the importance of notice at a council meeting level. I would also say that it doesn't contemplate the necessity of a closed meeting. It says the meetings shall be open, and I believe that conflicts with other parts of the bylaws, and it doesn't contemplate we might need to have an emergency meeting or something time-sensitive that needs to be processed. But I certainly believe that every chair of a committee should make efforts to provide and to consider the needs of the staff in arranging such meetings, to make every effort to provide as much advance notice as possible. Mayor?
Yeah, so I share those thoughts. There's not been, and I think Councilmember Mueller acknowledged that, a council committee meeting that has been scheduled on less than 2 days' notice. And so I'm not sure that this is sort of fixing something that happened in the past inadvisably. And sometimes we do want to have a meeting on short notice, sometimes just maybe to have a recommendation prior to a council meeting, but this is not something that I think we need to codify, since it's a practice we're already following, and we're not fixing a problem that's existed.
Other comments or questions? Go ahead.
I've been very impressed with the notifications I get, text and phone messages about the events, including advisory committee meetings and this meeting. I think it's the best notification system I've seen in a long time, and it's really to be commended, and I feel it keeps me on track very well.
If I could add one more comment. From a parochial interest, I'm a little terrified about the idea of learning something about what DPS might have decided about Page Park and then not being able to hold a meeting or make a decision that wouldn't delay Page Park even further. So from a personal interest, that worries me too. But other questions, or Mr. Conlon?
I'm just wondering whether we can't add a clarification that there are occasions when you need to have special meetings on short notice, and that steps can be taken to make sure that whatever was discussed and decided at those meetings is also part of the public record. So I would just ask that we think about the possibility of maybe amending this to make it clear that.
All council committee meetings have minutes, right?
Yes.
So there is a public record from every one of these meetings.
I think the point I'm making is that we could call, offer the option, this is just, I'm thinking out loud here, of a special or emergency meeting that doesn't have 2 days' notice, but make it clear that the, whatever was discussed and the outcomes of those meetings will be part of the public record. I'm just wondering whether we can clarify a little bit that there may be situations where we, it's not, we don't have the time, something comes up that we need to deal with, and therefore have an exception in here that we can, allows us to deal with that.
So, John, this is what...
Could I just say, from a procedural point of view, we cannot amend these types of motions given that it's bylaws. It needs to have been presented, or I'm sorry, submitted, and then a second meeting. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't continue talking and so forth. But did you have something to say? Councilmember Klein?
Yeah, what I'm hearing is that we already do this as a matter of practice, And I'm hearing that I understand respectfully, John, that you would like to try to reach a compromise on this. But there's always a con side, you know, an adverse consequence. When you say there's an exception, you have a rule that it's 2 days and it's a hard and fast rule unless there's an exception, then people start to argue about whether or not the exception is really met. And I personally think, given our pattern and practice and the wonderful system that we have for notifying people of all of our committee meetings, not just the council meeting, that there really is no need to amend our bylaws. So that's what my position would be. Even if we could amend it, I wouldn't be in favor of it.
Madam Chair, yeah, I simply will point out, as far as we have something called special meetings, and the bylaws say you need at least 3 days. My motion is more conservative. And with all due respect to my colleagues, it hasn't always worked. It was not my impression, but what the managers themselves reported to the mayor, that earlier in this council's existence, there weren't always 2 days. And the only thing that keeps it into a certain number are the bylaws. And there's nothing in the bylaws about that. Whereas, as I said at the beginning, there is something specific in regular meetings, special meetings, work sessions, and executive sessions. They're there even though we might or might not follow it, or a future council might or might not follow it. This is just in keeping with the spirit and the exact details. I'm really puzzled why there is any concern. I don't know of any time that there was a meeting called with such urgency that it couldn't be within 2 days. I really honestly don't. So the flip side of we're always doing it correctly or doing it within 2 days is, number one, not so, and number two, what is the danger? I haven't really heard, with all due respect, the danger. If someone on the council, including myself, suddenly decides on a Friday, oh, you know, we're going to have a meeting next week, but I want to have more information, that's not an emergency. That's sort of a personal choice. An emergency is something that obviously we would all know is an emergency, and it can't wait. And I think we all agree. So the motion that I presented is in keeping with those that are already in the bylaws. Shall be posted at least 2 days in advance. These are advisory committees. These are advisory committees. They're not making decisions, they're giving advice. The important thing is that some of our residents might like to come. They're public, open meetings, but we don't have them beating down the doors to come. And a requirement of our advisory groups having a 2-day announcement, which can be in the website or any other way that the manager makes it known, it's not unreasonable. It's not of any danger to the council performing its duties. We're not talking about an advisory group having an emergency. Advisory groups don't have emergencies. They have opinions. They have choices. They have preferences. They don't have emergencies. This is, I'm sorry, I just don't understand what a perfectly harmless improvement to the bylaws is creating a minor fuss and using up more time. I certainly didn't intend that. I did not think it was going to be anything controversial. But it seems, sadly, if I introduce it, it becomes controversial.
My
I'll call
own,
the question, Madam Chair.
Okay.
If you're going to vote against it, but let's
Can
not
he do that?
prolong,
I'd like to
let's
I'd
not
like to
prolong
respond.
this.
I think we have another comment. He was been waiting.
With all due respect, the parliamentarian will correct me, but once a motion, once
need a second?
once it is called, I think it has to be, once the question is called, no further discussion. According to the parliamentary rules, You're the parliamentarian.
You know
but-
what? If that's what you want, we'll do it regardless of what the rules are. So the motion was made to add a new section 5, committee meetings. All council or advisory committee meetings shall be open to the public, and public notice shall be posted at least 2 days in advance of such meetings. And that motion was seconded. And again, it's an amendment to bylaws, so to go forward or to pass, it needs 5 votes. So could everyone in favor of this raise their hand? Okay, I see 2 in favor, and all against, or you can abstain later. Mr. Basil, did you see that? Okay. So it's 2 for and 5 against, right? I'm sorry, did you get that? I can't see you. Did you record that, Mr. Basil?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I got it.
thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Okay, but
Yeah, I
please
just-
try not to prolong this,
This will
okay?
be a very quick comment. I just want to clarify something Councilmember Mueller said. I never said that early in the term we held meetings on less than 2 days' notice.
It was reported in an email that you sent that the managers had said something to that effect.
I never said we held a meeting on less than 2 days' notice. What I said was that we had a lot of meetings
Could I
early in the
suggest that
term.
this doesn't need
Okay.
to be discussed at this
So-
time?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Madam Chair, the mayor sent an email to all of us. I discussed this amendment.
suggesting that we
I'm
not discuss
sorry,
this
I'm sorry,
anymore
but
right
I'm
now,
reading the
please.
mayor's email.
I hear
He
that,
said,
but
"I
I'm asking
discussed-"
you to please stop now so we can move on. If we'd like to talk about it at another meeting, we can be
Excuse
open
me.
to that.
Excuse me, we voted, and then after the vote, the mayor was given the opportunity to make a further comment. I was not planning to make another comment, but since the mayor did, and he's correcting me when I don't think that's the full story. The mayor's email said, quote, "I discussed this amendment with the village managers. They felt that early in the council term, council committee chairs were trying to schedule meetings on short notice." So they were doing it in less
Where
than
does
2 days.
it say less than 2 days in there?
On
That's
short
what you said.
notice, but could not recall a recent
You-
council committee meeting where
Right.
less than 2 days' notice was given.
And where did I say in that email that we
Can-
had a meeting with less than 2 days?
Gentlemen,
You-
can I suggest
The
that
mayor
we
is-
stop this
is
conversation
quibbling.
now?
The
No.
mayor wrote clearly
No, you're
that he could-
misquoting what I wrote.
No, come on, Roy.
Where does it
You
say
s-
we had a meeting on less than 2 days' notice?
You said he could not recall a recent council
Right.
meeting where less than 2 days. So
Right.
obviously,
No.
you're saying that this meeting was held prior to
That's not obvious.
recently.
We weren't going
It
to go
is
back
obvious.
and look at all our meetings
They felt that
from the beginning of
early in the
council.
council term,
Well-
council committee chairs were trying to schedule meetings on short notice, but could not recall a
My first
recent
time
council
ever.
committee, a recent council meeting where less than 2 days was given. Clearly, that
It
is
doesn't say
stated.
less than 2
It is-
days.
You are picking at straws.
No, you're
You
misreading
didn't-
the letter.
I am
You're
not,
not-
I am reading it verbatim.
And where does it say 2 days in there? Which
It
is what you
says
keep
2
saying.
days. It says 2 days' notice
Recently.
was where less than 2 days' notice was given.
Where does it say that less
It
than 2
says
days
that.
was ever given?
It says that.
No, it doesn't. It
Oh,
doesn't.
come on.
Gentlemen, we
It
have
is- this is
new business,
absolutely
and
dis-
not everyone wants...
You can disagree with me, but twisting your
everyone
words
wants to
is
listen to
ridiculous.
You read my words.
I read your words
Right.
correctly.
That's right, and they don't
You-
say what you
it-
claimed I said.
They most certainly do. You're saying the opposite. Yes, Mr. Trump, the election was stolen, no matter what you say. This is disgraceful.
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Well, good for you. You can't even take
John
a vote
has-
and let
John
it
has
be.
a second.
You have to try and make it seem
We're
like I've
having
made
a vote on the
mistake.
motion,
It's
vote on the motion to
personal.
adjourn. All in favor? I cannot. If this is the way this is going to be. To adjourn. Mr. Mueller, how do you vote on the?
It's Dr. Mueller.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Mueller, how do you vote on this?
On
I
what?
apologize. On the motion to adjourn.
I abstain.
You abstain. And Secretary, how do you vote on this, please?
In favor.
Okay. Do you have a record then? You've got it. 1 abstain and 6 in favor?
Who abstained?
I abstain because this is a disrespectful show for a fellow council member. You didn't have to do that. You really didn't.
Everybody else
You
was
could
in
have just
favor?
voted to make it seem like I'm just voting